All right, we're live.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our 35th recurring Platform and Treasury Council meeting. Today, we'll cover governance initiatives, platform developments, and upcoming proposals. Please post the agenda in the chat now. Thank you. These bi-weekly meetings provide transparency into council operations that offers a forum to present directly to council members and community and maintain consistent communication across our global ecosystem. What we're building, the Internet of Money. 7 billion people connected by mobile phones, yet unable to truly own and move money the way they own and move data. The Telcoin Association is changing that, establishing Telcoin Network and TEL as the blockchain and token standard for global communications, telecommunications. Telecoms run the internet. With Telcoin Network, they also process blocks, securing the settlement layer for digital finance accessible to every mobile subscriber worldwide. The platform architect. 3 integrated layers working as one system. Telcoin Network, EVM compatible layer. EVM compatible layer 1 blockchain, validated exclusively by GSMA mobile network operators, introducing an entirely new revenue stream for telecoms. TELX, liquidity layer enabling user-owned self-custodial asset exchanges. TAN, mobile applications connecting users to blockchain financial services and each other. There are 4 miner groups with 1 shared governance. The platform operates through equal stakeholders, validators, the GSMA, MNOs, securing the blockchain and earning transaction fees, liquidity miners, providing liquidity to enable decentralized exchanges, developers, building compliant mobile applications, stakers, users driving adoption and connecting payment networks. Each miner earns fees and TEL issuance, aligning telecoms, developers, liquidity providers, and users across the value chain. GSMA validation rights scale to billions through existing infrastructure. Distributed ownership turns participants into defenders, viral at launch, defendable at scale. TEL, the native token. TEL powers the network as a gas token, stake an asset, and governance mechanism. Miners stake TEL to participate, earn fees from transactions, and harvest from issuance flows. Stake TEL determines both earning power and governance influence. Democratic governance. The Telcoin Association operates as a Swiss Verein with 5 elected councils. Platform and Treasury councils hold global authority over platform-wide systems and token economics. We work alongside TAN Council, TELX Council, and Compliance Council. Our dual mandate, we oversee sustainable platform provisioning, planning infrastructure and collective goods, and responsible TEL allocation, regulating token distribution for miners to harvest based on productive contributions. Why this matters. Each decision shapes whether we achieve our vision, uniting GSMA mobile operators and billions of users around shared blockchain infrastructure, where money moves like data, accessible to every mobile phone globally. Our commitments. As your elected representatives, we commit to thoughtful proposal review, consistent communication, transparent platform updates, and faithful execution of the governance framework you've entrusted to us. Now let's proceed with today's agenda. The first will be the recap of the last meeting, then the network update, TELpets, TELIP Claude AI, TIP Council Organized Subscription Upgrade, TELIP Strategic Telecom Advisory Engagement. Now we will go to the recap. It will be the Telcoin network updates. The team completed a major database layer overhaul to improve network reliability and resilience. New technical documentation has been released covering base fees, gas limit penalties, and EVM compatibility. New technical documentation has been released covering base fees, gas limit penalties, and EVM compatibility. A soft launch of the testnet is active, allowing for real-world testing and bug identification with a select group of patterns. The network is integrating with layer 0 and has successfully decentralized the testnet faucet to give partners and developers more autonomy. Unified web presence. The association is consolidating its various websites, telcoin.org, telex.net, and telcoin.net, into a single cohesive hub. UX research is nearing completion, and the team has finalized UI concepts that offer tailored navigation for retail users, MNOs, and developers. The project is entering the building phase to ensure a streamlined user journey across the entire ecosystem. Claude AI proposal. A new TELIP proposal was introduced to integrate Claude AI into the association's operations. This tool aims to boost efficiency in departments like compliance, marketing, and forecasting. It is designed to be compatible with existing workflows like Slack, Trello, and GitHub, serving as a cost-effective alternative to traditional outsourcing. Q&A and strategic outlook. The council clarified that TEL is the native gas token required for all network transactions. Institutional adoptions remains focused on GSMA mobile network operators who are testing stable coin payments and mobile money solutions. While specific mainnet launch dates are not yet public to ensure responsible development, the team urges the community to follow upcoming TAN and TX calls for further project updates. Now we go to the Telcoin network update. Please, Grant.
Thanks, Angelica. I'm trying something new today. I have my camera on, so hello, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. So development updates wise, the team has identified and prioritized the remaining issues that would require the network to fork when it upgrades. These are changes like precompiles and execution level changes that affect the protocol's deterministic state changes. And really what that just means is, as these transactions are flowing through the system and they're finalized and they're executed, the protocol follows these sets of rules, and upgrading it while the network is running would essentially cause a fork. It would be no longer consistent. And so with that, we're prioritizing that work, and that work is nearly complete. And that's going to allow us to lock in the network's core on-chain architecture. So to highlight some of those changes, Telcoin Network is using a precompile that extends the ERC20 interface to native token balances, so users don't have to take an extra step to wrap TEL for DeFi transactions or any sort of DApp integration. We also made improvements to the core consensus registry that improved storage slot allocation. So before that change, the protocol could only support about 1,100 total validators that are staked, but now we can support over 7,000. For security, our AI-assisted security scans continue to produce valuable results. So we've narrowed the scope down to isolated individual crates within our larger workspace. And that means that we're methodically working through the remaining attack surface area at a much more concentrated scope. For context, these scans cost roughly $200 per month compared to $50,000 per week for a manual security research assessment. We're being thorough with security while also being responsible with our designated budget. But I promise, once we're finished and exhausting the AI scans, we are moving on to third-party human security assessments, which is still the industry standard, and it will represent that last security gate before we launch mainnet. Finally, I would like to provide a quick testnet update. So TELpets, we're going to dive into right after this, but it's been incredibly valuable for live testnet testing. We now have like over 200 users around the world who are actively submitting transactions and generating the kind of real world usage patterns that would be impossible for our team to replicate internally. So I want to extend a genuine thank you to everyone participating, and for Nick and for spearheading that. And please keep it up. We'll continue to reset testnet periodically as we identify and fix bugs so that every change gets exposed to as much live testing as possible. I really appreciate the community's patience, and I apologize to any of the TELPet owners who might lose their progress when the testnet resets, but I hope that you continue to help us test. I cannot stress enough how valuable it is to production hardening process. And very soon we will have a stable testnet. We're no longer resetting. So as always, we'll continue to update the Telcoin network roadmap and document all technical changes on the open source GitHub repo. So that's it for my updates, but I will stick around to answer any questions at the end of the call.
Thank you, Grant. Does anybody on the council have any comments? Take it away, Nick, for TELpets.
Well, the good news is that when they redeploy the new testnet, you won't lose your pets. So don't worry about that. You're going to be fine. The only thing you'll have to do is just redeploy your pets on-chain digital identity. That's the only thing you're going to have to do. So yeah, I've built it in a way that we've already been through one refresh of testnet, so everyone's fine. But yeah, I'll give you. We did a good meeting on the TAN, but I'll give a good meeting on a good update on this one. Let me just find my tab. Where is it? While I'm looking for it, why is it not showing me? Hold on one sec. That one there. Bear with me. Oh, here it is. Okay, sorry. Right, should be able to see my screen now. So, can you see it okay? Yeah. Okay, great. So yeah, TELpets. With Grant and the devs and Steve and everyone working so hard, we needed to come up with a way to help test the network and stress test the network. So yeah, I came up with this idea, TELpets, for the community, because I really felt that the community, we've got such a large TELFAM community that they could really help with testing the network. So hence why TELpets was born. We were almost at 400,000 transactions. I was hoping to hit that by this meeting, but we're on something like 385,000, so we're pretty close. But yeah, I'll give you a demo. First of all, I'll do a new account. So you just go to telpets.xyz or XYZ. Desktop, MetaMask is the best browser to use. You can use mobile as well, MetaMask. Although mobile's, is a little bit fiddly. The desktop's a better experience. But in essence, you just simply connect your wallet. Once you connect your wallet, obviously you need to ideally use a new empty wallet. Don't use a real wallet that's got any funds in it because, just for obvious reasons. But on the homepage, once you come here, you get to, first of all, create your pet. We've got 4 characters. Maybe later we'll add some more, but for now we'll we've only got 4. You give your pet a name. So I'm just going to call him TELpet. You hatch a pet, and you get to your dashboard screen with your little pet over here, and they animate, your eyes move and things like that. I also built in some AI so they talk back to you as well when you do certain things. But in essence, there's a couple of different kind of areas. One is feeding your pet. This is an on-chain transaction. So if you feed your pet, you get a MetaMask transaction pop up. You just confirm it. Once the transaction is confirmed, you get some XP. Your pet's full up. You can refeed it every 2 hours or so. The bar will go down, so you don't want to leave your pet hungry. But yeah, so he talks back to you, gives you some information. That's one thing you can do, is feeding your pet, and that's a transaction on the testnet. The second kind of area is these tasks, which have been put together to help test the network in different capacities with volume and things like that. You've got a quick test, which does a single transaction. You've got some burst tests, which do multiple transactions in one. You can send to a friend. I've added the ability to type in a pet's name here as well. That's already a TELpet to send to a friend. So you can send to a friend. You confirm that. That's another task done. They have cooldown timers on them as well. So then you get some XP. You can do all these other tasks here. We then have these other things called load parties, which everybody can join. They have a countdown timer. They run once every hour. We've got 20 that have joined into this one so far. The point of the load parties are that we get as many people as possible to do the task. You just click run when the countdown timer gets to 0. You simply click run. You confirm your transaction, and the idea of that is to get focused people doing transactions at the same time, so we can kind of hit the network at the same time. The more the merrier. And the different load parties come up once an hour, and they have different kind of things, mini bursts, and all you got to do is just click run, and it will do whatever that task is. You'll earn some XP, etc. Then we added a bit more fun, because I thought this could also help testing the network, is basically you can create your own pet smart contract, your own identity on chain, on the blockchain. So the first time you do it, you'd have these overall identities which are permanent, but we can also update your smart contract once an hour. So you can update the stats of your on-chain pet's identity record. So first of all, you just deploy your first smart contract. This does it all for you. It literally creates a contract on the Telcoin testnet, Treasury testnet. Once that's finished, you'll see I've got some XP, and all these with the ticks now are synced, on the contract, smart contract on the blockchain. My stats have changed because I earned some XP and things like that. So I can now sync my stats over here. That will update my stats. That's another transaction, updating a smart contract on the Treasury testnet. So in an hour, I can resync. If I keep doing my my tasks and stuff like that, my data here, my on-chain record will need to be, the stats will need to be updated. So you can update your smart contract once an hour. And then you can earn badges. So you can see I've earned a badge because I've deployed the pet permanently on the Telcoin network. Well, that should say a Treasury testnet. But and then for other bits of fun, we've got these different careers. Your pets can have careers, and then you have different tiers of different things you need to do on chain to reach your goal. I'm going to switch my account to my other one now, just quickly, because my other one's a bit more far-fetched to show you a bit further down the line. Let's see. So connect wallets. One sec. So this is my main pet that has been going on for quite a while, and you can see that we've got all these badges earned now down here with your pet. I've chosen a sock auditor. Some of the names are quite funny, but I tried to put a bit of humor in it. But I can join that party there, wait for that. I can sync my on-chain stats and update my smart contract, my pet smart contract. I've also built in profiles. So you can go to the leaderboard. Well, first of all, you can view your own profile here. So this is your pet. It tells you your testing contribution, what you've done to help with the network. So you've done 597 runs. I've done 3,083 transactions. There's my total XP. There's my on-chain record for my pet. This is the actual proper contract address, which when we do have a Block Explorer working, you'll be able to go on there and check your own record for your pet. You can share, copy link, share your profile if you want to, back to anybody else on you want to. And then down here you've got your stats. Well, you got your evolution of how your pet progresses through its levels of its stages, just to make it a bit more fun. You've got your personal stats here, what you've done, and then we've got the community stats here. So you can see that we've now got 214 users signed up. These are the runs today, total runs, and at the moment we're sitting on 386,000 transactions. So we're closing in on the 400,000 mark, which is pretty cool for 2 weeks, just under 2 weeks really. And the last bit of it is your history here. So every time you do something on chain, you actually get your history here. It tells you what you've done. You can click on them. It'll give you that's a contract address, but it will give you like the transaction hash here of that particular transaction on chain as well. You can minimize all these. You can, if you don't want to have everything on the page at the same time, you can minimize stuff, all the way down to just seeing your tasks, for example. So everything's minimized here. You can expand it. And there's your on-chain pet contract, which is fully on chain. And that's pretty much it really. It's more about just doing these tasks, going through them, completing them. The timer runs down. I can do my quick test again. That's another transaction, and some more XP, level up and go through it. And then we've got our leaderboard here, and what a surprise. Angelica's actually number one. She's way out in front. I don't know who's going to catch her here. But yeah.
Come on, Phil.
It's a long one. It's a long way to go. But yeah, so it's amazing to see. These are all the badges that each person, each pet has earned. It's got their job title on there as well. As they progress through the tiers, you'll see down here that my career, I'm going to be a chartered stock auditor soon. So I'm on 72%. This one is syncing your on-chain record. So every time you sync your on-chain record, you go up a level on here to get to your career goes further and further. So yeah, adding a bit of gamification in, but still keeping true to the idea of it being a testing tool, but just making it fun. So, you want to be clicking these buttons, you want to be continuing to do it. We've also got a Telegram group, and I built a Telegram bot. I don't think I can share that screen, but basically in the Telegram group, it sends alerts into the group whenever a pet levels up or, has different types of progress on their career and things like that. So all in all, it's a lot of fun. And we have had quite a few, I think between 50 and 60 people joined, I think the max on one of these load parties, which is really, really cool. The load parties are really important because that's like everybody clicking at the same time and submitting transactions all at the same time. So it all hits the network, at the same time. So overall, that's pretty much it. There's an FAQ on here as well. You can go through the FAQ. You can get your test tokens in the Telegram group, but we'll soon have a faucet. You'll be able to claim the tokens yourself, but for now you can just join the Telegram group. You can get the link from the website up here, jump in there, just give us your address, set up a new empty wallet address. We'll send you some test tokens and you can get going, and that's all there is to it. It's totally free. Just appreciate everybody who's been putting in all the hard work. You guys have really killed it, and anyone else who wants to jump in and have a go. We've even had a few people that were nothing to do with they weren't part of the Telcoin community, and one person even messaged me saying that they'd never used blockchain before, but it's piqued their interest and they're really interested in how it works, and it's all very exciting. So it's spreading quite far. So we've got 200 how many did I say? We've got 215 users. More the merrier. If we can get up to a couple of hundred, would be great. Next week or whenever the new version, Grant and Stephen deploy the new version of the testnet, the only thing that will happen is I've actually built like an airdrop tool that I'll replenish all the pet wallets with TEL anyway straight away, so you'll all get your TEL back. And the only thing you guys are going to have to do will be to redeploy your smart contract on chain. All of your pet, everything's going to stay as it is. Your levels will stay as it is. It's just literally the on-chain record that will need to be. You'll have a redeploy button here, but that's it really. Not much more else on that. But yeah, telpets.xyz or xyz. Join up, jump in the Telegram, get your test tokens, and have some fun.
Thank you, Nick. Does anybody on the council have any comments?
Clap it up for Nick and everyone involved in this. It's such an awesome job.
Absolutely. Outstanding. Thank you. That's really, really awesome.
It's great that we're getting up in the hundreds of thousands of transactions. Our goal is to hit 1 million, so we're going to keep going until we get there at least.
Yes, and you make it very easy. I test a lot of beta on different blockchains, and you've done it so fun, and it's not intimidating. And I can also do it on my phone, MetaMask.
Yeah, I made it easy to connect as well. So hopefully it's as long as you've got MetaMask in your Chrome browser on your PC or MetaMask mobile, it adds the Adiri chain automatically to your MetaMask. You don't have to put any of the chain details in. It does it. You just click a couple of buttons and you're in.
I don't think Angelica is competitive at all.
Is it showing up now?
Not at all. Everybody in the chat in the stream is like, hey, we're glad that she's having to present today because then she can't be clicking.
Yeah.
And
I could take some XP off, but
and you tried to do a coup d'etat against me while I'm sleeping. And I'm watching you guys. I'm like, okay, then I'm going to do it for 10 more hours.
Ty's got his hand up.
The load parties give you 100 XP, so it's worth clicking and joining those.
Ty?
Yeah, hi guys. I've not been doing a huge amount of testing, but I'd just like to touch upon the nodes, because when I first started, I was on just the default node set up in MetaMask, and confirmation times were over 100 seconds. So I switched to node 2, and that cut it down to between 2 and 3 seconds, which has been consistent. And I know there's a selection of nodes, but maybe Grant, you could just touch on the node setup and maybe what the plans are for expansion on that.
Definitely, yeah, that's an excellent point. So currently we have registered on chainlist.org a theory testnet, and this is a kind of a centralized organization that tracks different EVM chains. So I provided a link in the chat here. I'm not sure how visible that is across the community on the video, but these are nodes that we as an association are maintaining. You can connect your wallet here to have it implemented. If you click the down arrow, Derek, then you'll see the full list of nodes. So this is something that we have to register with Chainlist, and as we onboard other validators and MNOs that we don't really have their static IP address up front, and every time that, if that was to change, then we'd have to be updating this network. So these are reliable nodes, and for developers that are going to submit a lot of transactions, or for testers that are submitting a lot of transactions, it might be best to just pick one. It'd be faster if you're going to do a lot of transactions in a row to probably just pick one node. Adiri.tel and rpc.telcoin.network are the two load balancers, and they will fan out your transactions across all the nodes that are active. But node 1, node 2, node 3, and node 4.telcoin.network we will always maintain those to help transactions enter the network no matter who's validating the network. So those are reliable RPCs. They're all reliable RPCs, but one of the things on our roadmap is to build out this infrastructure to make it even more robust and improve the user experience. So stories like yours, Ty, are really valuable for us to kind of go look and identify areas that we can improve on to really increase that user experience. So over time, this is going to get better. Right now, we are full steam ahead on just the state breaking changes, but right after that, we recognize and we do have a high priority for improving this sort of experience for users.
Yeah, and I'll just add that, to be honest with you, 95%, there's been no issues with rpc.telcoin.network with the pets. It's all been fine. It's just an odd use, like Ty had an issue and a handful of others, but also, it kind of spins in circles. The next day, the RPC will be telcoin.net will be fine, So I think it's not necessarily just a time of day sometimes when people are using particularly rpc.telcoin.network, but it's been much better and working really smoothly overall, I think, for everyone on pets.
Does anybody else have any comments or questions? Okay, the next update is TELIP Claude AI.
Oh, was there any questions in the other chat? I haven't got it open. I don't know if you're looking at Derek, are you?
I am. There's none for pets. I've got a few written down that we can go over at the end. I figured we just kind of do it that way. Keep it moving and do Q&A at the end.
Okay, next up is TELIP Claude AI.
Okay. Good morning, evening, afternoon, everyone. So the Claude AI proposal, it's in snapshot now, but ultimately we are looking to give the association access to Claude and become a little more efficient on that front. It's obviously there's going to be a lot of different use cases for it. This can range from compliance, coding, marketing, communications, forecasting, dashboards, general research. It's endless on that front. A couple of other things as well. We have been able to get non-profit pricing, so that has been approved if we're to go ahead and get this all sorted on our side. On a team plan, so that's $8 per user per month, and the enterprise plan is more user based, but it starts at $10 per user per month with minimum seat allocations on each. So we'll see how we go there. And also within the team plan, we can upgrade users as they use the data. So We're also looking to be a little more efficient. It should help keep the costs down as well. So it means we can keep work in house rather than have external parties doing the work for us. And it means we're going to get things done a little quicker. We can work all different hours of the day, not just when they feel like working as well from an outside point of view. And the other part of it as well, at the moment we've got members, spending their own money on tokens, where it's just we'll bring it in the house and we'll be able to get everyone doing what they need to do under the association now. There could be we'd need to set up an admin along the way as well, just to manage the spend if we do go beyond the team situation. But apart from that, it should be reasonably straightforward and add a lot of value. It's going to be able to have cross work. We're about to work between Trello, Slack, and so forth, Google. Implementation is going to be pretty straightforward as well. Obviously, a lot of focus on development and project work that needs doing. Be able to collaborate as well between councils. And really, there's not too much more to it. Does anyone have any questions on it or any suggestions on that front? It is in snapshot now, so if you haven't voted, please do so.
No questions. Thank you, Hayden. The next update.
Right.
Oh, do you? Okay, the next update is TELIP Council Organizational Subscription Upgrade.
Yeah, this one is mine. This is a proposal I put out revolving around the tool that we use called Fellow for our AI recording of our meetings. It categorizes all the recordings and keeps them on file. But currently we're on just a free tier subscription, which only allows a 14-day window. So ideally, this is an easier way for us to twofold. One, to go back and look at any transcripts, look at any summaries, or review any video from previous meetings that are past that 14-day window. But also, it enables us to utilize a link, a public link to give a copy of that, a truncated version of that to the community, so that in just a link on Discord, so they don't have to go and search on the X account to find a recording and then scroll to the certain section where they were looking for something. It makes the data much more accessible for both internally, for us to review for both our internal and external meetings, and then any external meetings is a valuable tool for the community. Especially if somebody's got a question, and then it's all on Discord and right there as well. This also provides some integration with using Zapier and some other things that will create some automation workflows to push things to Slack channels and just kind of create a better flow for communication. So it's a pretty light lift from a cost perspective. It's in the teens per month. We just need a single seat. We don't need anything more than that. We would assign an admin from account from the TAO, and they would manage that, and then it would give us the ability to do all these things. So that's the request. It's just a single seat membership for, I believe it's $16 or $17 a month. And I already looked into the nonprofit stuff. It is only a 10% discount, which doesn't factor to much. And they only do it for the team plans. Those team plans require every single person to have one. A lot of companies use this app as more of a meeting planner app than we do. We use Google for that. So that's why we don't need all those functions. And I don't feel that extended cost of somewhere in the neighborhood of $500 a month makes any sense. So pretty slow, pretty light lift, but would give just kind of a library of information to people look back on.
Thank you, Derek. Any comments or questions? Up next is TELIP Strategic Telecom Advisory Engagement.
Everybody, awesome job with the TELpets. This is cool. How is my audio video? Is it good?
It's a little bit laggy.
Is it laggy?
I think you're better now.
Don't get addicted on the
Yep.
TELpets though.
You know, I'm having trouble sleeping at night just clicking to beat Angelica on this. So yeah, I'll just jump right into it and share my screen.
Go ahead, Parker. I beat you to it. Go ahead.
Oh,
There you go.
you
You're
beat
good.
me to it. All right.
No, I want you drive. You're good.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah. So good afternoon, everyone. Just wanted to use our time today. Scroll all the way up here. Yeah, just want to use our time today to do three things. Walk through the core thesis argument behind this proposal, this TELIP, address the community's questions that have been raised since it's been posted. There have been plenty of them. They've been thoughtful. And we've had some resolutions across the board yesterday in office hours that will drive us towards getting what I believe a proposal that we can pass. And I'll present the amendments that I made to the proposal as a result of those discussions, as a result of those forum questions, as well as the questions raised in the council office hours. So the why are we doing this TELIP for a strategic telecom advisor? So Telcoin network is built for one constituency, the GSMA, and its validator architecture reserves this participation rights exclusively for GSMA operator members. Its economic model depends on those operators doing two things: validating the chain and on top of it. Validation and application development aren't sequential, right? They're two twin pillars of the same objective of replatforming the existing financial system on the Telcoin network with applications and a secure settlement layer for what we call the internet. And so they're two twin pillars and really both are essential long term. The commercial momentum really is real. I mean, we're seeing a tremendous amount of MNOs and GSMA members across the board express interest, sign up to validate, and generally become excited about this opportunity, which we realized really is a first mover advantage in each of these markets for blockchain and this new technology of money. So the pipeline's built, it's building, mainnet's approaching shortly. And what this TELIP addresses is not whether the team can execute on MNO engagement. It clearly can, but whether there's a ceiling on what that engagement can achieve without a specific kind of voice that we just don't currently have. That ceiling really is sort of the GSMA itself. And so establishing blockchain standard for the telecommunications industry does not happen through bilateral conversations. Standards really coalesce through the GSMA working groups within Telecom, through collaborative institutional participation and the accumulated influence of trusted voices from inside. I want to italicize that, inside the operator community. So that process can't necessarily be driven from the outside. Standards bodies, they respond to peers, not really as well as they do to vendors. You can imagine the thousands of vendors in every country that are selling to telecoms, which are the largest companies in the world. And we're trying to align with telecoms. And so that requires something from within. And really, it can't be driven from simply outside. So standards bodies, they respond to peers and not to vendors, is how I would like to put it. MNO product and strategy teams are moved by operators they respect, and industry peers they respect across the full value chain, not necessarily by projects pitching to them. And one of the things that we've seen from operator discussions is that, well, first off, we're the last blockchain in the room, and that's an awesome thing from an enduring perspective, from the perspective of, oh, we're a trusted voice that is really trying to build a network for the GSMA, not pitching to them. We're in this awesome position, but what we need right now is this champion that's from within the GSMA, someone who's built up this industry experience and connections, a mobile operator veteran with deep expertise in both telecom, and blockchain, which is of course really hard to find, and their convergence. And so with active GSMA relationships and with the standing to align peers around, a shared infrastructure standard, someone who's not representing Telcoin to the industry, the association, but bringing the industry into what Telcoin network already represents. So the entire system we've built is this sort of thesis-made infrastructure that the world will unite on a blockchain standard that's coordinated by mobile network operators. And that's what Telcoin Network was built to be. This engagement is, in my view, the investment that's required to ensure that the industry recognizes it immediately on time. And a little bit of background now, I'll jump into on the advisor. So all council members have been fully briefed on the advisor's identity and credentials. For the community's context, over 25 years in telecom, innovation, senior leadership, within one of the largest operators in the world, and sort of banging on the door for the past decade of telecom companies with Web3 initiatives for how they can build with this new technology. And is an active GSMA participant, regular at all of the events as a speaker, and direct working relationships and friendships really with senior decision makers across MNOs in every single continent. And so the community, to clarify, will have a name and a face at month 4 for this strategic advisor. And that sort of month 4 sequencing is a strategic, deliberate choice that we've made, not meant to be a limitation. And here's why. In telecom and enterprise environments generally, early conversations are meaningfully more productive when they're approached as neutral, relationship-driven exchanges. So a trusted senior voice from within the operator world opens doors differently than when that conversation is not immediately framed through a formal advisory role. That distinction matters in the first few weeks of engagement. Right? We're protecting it deliberately because it produces better introductions and more candid conversations. So the community will see the substance of that work before they see the name. The track record comes first. I'm sure that it won't be difficult to figure out. And this is really more designed for the, bringing the mobile operator side of it, to drive credibility. And now on to a couple of amendments from the proposal as a result of discussion. So the first thing in the room is the full TEL transfer that we had allocated for the maximum amount of the 2-year term. So that original proposal requested 194 million TEL up front, and that doesn't really make sense, right? We have this 3-month mutual evaluation period and quarterly accountability reviews with real exit provisions. So there's no reason to hold 2 years of funding at the bottom of the market and the TAO safe from day one. So the amended proposal that I implemented earlier this afternoon authorizes an initial transfer of that first quarter, so 50 million TEL, with subsequent quarterly transfers authorized by the council with the TAO prior to the end of each quarter. And so that'll be a result of reviewing the quarterly reports that are Storm and the partner. And we'll be working closely with them and them. So the total maximum deployment across the full 4-month term, if with a TEL priced at 0.0015 would be 194 million, but in the unused TEL would return to the Treasury at any termination point within the deal. And then second, the Treasury balance figure in the sustainability report was corrected from just over 8 to 7.2 billion TEL as a result of last year's, just had a typo there. And then there's a pretty substantive amendment from community feedback that I thought was really helpful, which is clarifying the reporting structure, or really just making sure that that's properly delegated. And so the proposal has been updated to specify that the TAO owns a submission of every advisory performance reporting to the council. Storm coordinates, translates as a program manager these advisory inputs into council-ready formats, and the advisor reviews and confirms each of these quarterly summaries. But what reaches the council, is the TAO's responsibility, and I think it's really clear to have these boundaries set from the outset. So I appreciated that comment, and it was really precisely framed. And then there's another question that was related, and I'll go through the questions in a second individually, and have replied on the forum as well. But A former member raised a question about the GSMA working group milestone. And for everyone's clarity, there are two different major milestones, each $25,000. And one of them is creating this GSMA working group for Telcoin and blockchain. And so I think it's a really meaningful institutional engagement. So we're not, the thing about it though, is that we're not, this has been, a 4-month negotiation process and a couple year courting process as well, to be honest. We're not really trying to reopen the contract language at this stage. I think that it introduces renegotiation risk into a relationship that we've worked carefully to structure with an advisor who's committed to really meaningful terms, including deploying his own products on Telcoin network. He's been developing products for years for blockchain and looking for the place. Well, he found it. And more importantly, we don't need to. I mean, the quarterly mutual reviews give the TAO and the councils full access, full discretion to assess at any point, at those points, any claimed milestone and whether it represents genuine institutional progress. So that judgment call belongs with the people accountable for the engagement, and the review structure is the safeguard. On year 2 incentive structure from Thad, that raised a pretty solid point about year 2 compensation. And it's basically, once both milestones are achieved, the engagement does in fact revert to a flat monthly retainer fee with no additional performance triggers. So that basically would be if in year 1 or, within the first 6 months, both of these milestones are hit. At those points, we're open to introducing year 2 milestone structures by amendment at the appropriate time. And that conversation will happen with the benefit of this real engagement data, which is a better basis for designing incentives than doing so in the abstract today. And then on Storm is an important point. We've had a relationship with them for almost a year now in various capacities across marketing and finance and ops and admin. And the community's frustration with sentiment and visibility is legitimate, and it's been heard. The Storm amendment directly is really meant to directly address the issues that we've seen. So refocus scope, structured quarterly reviews, and real exit provisions. So the accountability framework is detailed in part 2 of the proposal. We're not, asking the community to take Storm's performance on faith at all. The framework gives the councils and the TAO structured visibility into whether the revised engagement is working with defined moments to exit, if not. And so what's the ask? I'm asking the platform and Treasury councils on the back of a broad-based community consensus to approve 2 things today. One is the strategic telecom advice on the amended terms, 50 million initial transfer with quarterly authorization, 3-month mutual evaluation period, quarterly mutual reviews throughout, and 2 outcome-linked milestone bonuses totaling $50,000 with a 24-month maximum term, at which point we can do the engagement, a new engagement. And then the second one is the Storm Partners service amendment. So revised scope at 120,000 Swiss franc per year. There was a Q1 credit from the previous arrangement with marketing that's been applied over April through June, discounting it substantially. The accountability framework in effect immediately upon the approval of this, and no additional TEL would be required for that proposal. The cost is defined, the accountability is structured, the downside is protected at every quarter, and the upside is Telcoin Network is the recognized blockchain standard for an industry of 7 billion mobile subscribers. So are there any questions before we vote?
There is one in adjacent to Parker, revolving this. I'll just read it off. With 5 billion TEL in holdings possession for the bank, with 1 year left on a 2-year escrow, and no idea if it will end up being collateral for private investors or losing future budget. If TELIPs are about community governments, shouldn't quarterly updates, TELIPs such as this one, are about community government. Shouldn't quarterly updates be provided on such critical moves that directly impact stakers and holders? So basically, they're asking about when, I'm assuming the previous voting on these type of things with the previous stuff in mind.
Can you synthesize that question for me again? I'm
Yeah,
a bit trying
I
to
believe,
understand.
and Dee,
Is this
if
for
you
the
want to,
proposal? Or?
yeah. Dee, I think we'll hold that off to the end because I think I read that incorrectly. So let's go ahead and just any other ones revolving around this proposal, and then we'll go through that one. It's adjacent, but yeah, we'll hold off on it for now.
Please,
Grant.
Grant.
I'd like to just make a comment that having reviewed the individual and meeting with them at MWC, I fully support this proposal. I think it's critical for Telcoin network. I think it's an invaluable expense, and that I think that just wanted to say, like, great job finding this opportunity for us, and I hope the community can come to agreement to support this, because I really believe that it will be a tremendous support for bringing Telcoin network mainnet to a full successful launch.
Thanks, Grant. Ryan?
I'd like to discuss in depth more about some of the storm aspects. Do you think it's more appropriate to do it on this call or on an internal?
Sure, go ahead.
Mainly, I just think the community and the ecosystem engagement. I think given where we're at right now, still ahead of testnet, I feel like that's not a necessary service. So I just feel like that could be cut for at least the next quarter or so. And then I think further down the line, it would be something to revisit. But just given the current state of development, I don't see that as being necessary.
Well,
Does anyone have any thoughts?
Yeah, I would speak to that. I think, I can appreciate that sentiment, especially with the budget and the token kind of in where it's at right now. But I think that there's still value in exploring that, getting things going right now. So, a testnet has been a long time coming, but we are really, I think we're, it's weeks, not months. It is, I think it takes some time to develop and start that marketing agenda and initiative. And I think, having this in place, and so we can get going. So, as far as testnet, we are, I have a meeting tomorrow morning with Steve. We are going to be installing another node in another data center. We have the testnet has gone down once since we did our soft launch, and that was actually thanks to the robust testing that the community's provided. But we've since patched that, and I feel really confident that we are wrapping up any loose ends more quickly than we are unraveling. So roadmap wise, I think we're really, really close. And that I would say that I'm in favor of starting the marketing agenda now, especially because of how close a testnet really is to being launched. And, again, for the community, the idea of testnet is that it's stable, it does not reset. And so, that is the only hesitation here, is like, well, if we do find one of these state changes that we really need to implement in order to preserve the future of the network and be as flexible and as long-term as possible. Now is the time where we have that opportunity. We're feature complete. We've gone through significant bugs. The protocol has never been more stable. And so we have a chance to kind of breathe, slow think, and really narrow our focus into a deep review of all the code. And before we sign off, we don't take that lightly, which is kind of why the hesitation from a firm date. But I think we're really, really close to launching testnet with our MNO partners and having a stable network up to mainnet. And I realize that that's not necessarily obvious. So just wanted to provide that additional context, Ryan. I thought you bring up a good point.
Yeah, I have additional thoughts too on this. I think that we have limited resources. Dolly seems to be plugged into the community Discord and engagement. in a way that, regardless of this proposal, if we were to not go through with it, we would need to replace. We don't have the, unless missing a head count, we don't really have that person to do that. Leo was doing that before, and I was doing it with him. But his bandwidth needs to be focused on other areas as a technical strategist and liaison to the association. So unless there's another answer for who's going to manage the Discord server and these related sort of community tasks, I don't see why we shouldn't go through with it.
Well, I've proposed in the past of outsourcing some of the marketing stuff to the Telcoin Holdings marketing team, or hiring someone just full-time directly for the TAO. So that was kind of my thinking. I don't disagree that we need marketing ammo and manpower. I'm just wondering if doing it through Storm is the most efficient means of doing that. So happy to discuss that further.
Yeah. I mean, without like a counter proposal to this right now, it's kind of difficult to make a judgment call. We have the ability to amend the deal after a certain amount of time, and which would give you the ability to backfill that. But yeah, I just wonder if we have the USA-based bandwidth to manage the Discord properly, and if they have everything in place to do that, and if we, move forward with a Telcoin Holdings proposal and remove the rest or not. Does anyone else have thoughts? BZ?
Yeah. I think there's good points to be drawn from both. I think that Ryan's got a point that we've got to be budget conscious and be smart about how we're taking care of that budget. Him and I have had some conversations about how do we plan out, what that type of ramp up looks like. Is that an internal process? Is that an external? Who's doing X, Y, and Z? I think the portion with the community manager specifically is one small piece of that pie. I'm admittedly biased because I'm helped out a lot, and there's lots to be done. I think that a probably clear framework makes the most sense from a budgetary standpoint, and ensuring that we've got some clear, definitive goal or items in play. I mean, Ryan makes a good point of also that we've got. I think he has a proposal out there, right, for the usage of some of the marketing team from the holding side, and I think that brings up a greater conversation of kind of that cross utilization that we've all talked about with some of the opportunities there. So I believe that there's value in it. I think that it should be a scaled, measured approach as we approach these, upcoming milestones. And we have to be very careful that our internal processes and how we measure. And that's probably why I was brought up questions about specifically this proposal and internally on how is exactly this measured? How is exactly this? What's the measurable? There's a fine balance there at different times, but that's probably why I brought that up, and just making sure that we're doing our due diligence and being good stewards of the budget. So I do see both parts. I, again, am biased because I receive a lot of assistance on that end. Just right now I've got people, not to call Dahlia, but he's out posting links and responding to people in the chat while I try to moderate, and posting links to the proposals and everything else. So I think there's definitely value, and it's our determination to figure out the scope of what that continues on as. So.
Please, Nick.
Yeah, I just want to add that there's a lot we're working on in the background as well. We've got this huge unified web presence that we've been going through to unite all the websites and have a much clearer clearer front page, landing page for MNOs, developers, community, DeFi users, etc. And that's coming along really well. We're entering the building phase shortly for that. So I think that's a really important tool that we need to then help with marketing as well, because we'll have a lot of one pages on there. We'll have developer landing pages, we'll have everything like that. So, everything's kind of happening at the same time. And as we approach mainnet, there's less of a through testnet at the moment, there's less of a need for it. But as we kind of come together with this particular enterprise proposal as well for the advisor, super important, because not only is that talking in the inner circles, but that's also about developing on the network and stretching out that further as well. So I think the marketing side, while we've been doing some, it's coming together closer and closer, and we'll have a much more better idea and a plan in place when we get closer to mainnet, along with the unified web presence. Dali's great in the community, keeping people up to date. So there's a lot of moving parts, and we're working so hard behind the scenes on multiple parts of it that it's going to all come together, and we will have a really good marketing strategy in place to roll out. That's all I want to really say.
Do we have any more comments? Okay, thank you, Parker, for your thorough explanation of TELIP Strategic Telecom Advisory Engagement. Next up is Q&A.
Okay, let me back up and I'll try to batch these into what we're talking about first. So can we start with network stuff? Is that okay, Grant?
Yeah, that's great. Let's do it.
Okay. This is probably more for Nick on the network stuff, but there's been comments about reaching 1 million transactions in TELPET tests. Are these simply hopeful comments, or is there a minimum set target before go live can occur?
Well, I'll go first. There is no target with TELPets. TELPets was built for the community to help, as a testing tool. It's a testing tool for the testnet. Although it's got gamification in it to make it a bit more fun. The whole goal of it is to embrace the community, give the community something to do that they can help with the Telcoin network, rather than just sit there, behind social media and in Telegram groups. And I know it can get frustrating. This whole idea was to include the community and give you guys, all of the community, something to do to help their part in testing the network. I didn't have any expectations of any amount of transactions, but the fact that we're closing in on 400,000 transactions in 2 weeks, and it has given Grant and Steve and the other devs, a lot of real world testing that they've been able to monitor and see and find little edge cases that they need to fix and tweak. I think it's probably helped a huge amount, rather than a lot of these other blockchains out there. They just run scripts from their own dev teams inside one server on a network. We've got people connecting from all over the world with real wallets. I mean, not with real money in it, but a real wallet. Ty in New Zealand, who had slow issues with the RPCs, things like that. We've had so many everywhere, every country really we've had. So it's actually really good, information for the developers to monitor and see and find things that need to be tweaked. And I'm sure that there's been lots of things that Grant and Steve and the devs have found that will be going into the next deployment of testnet. So if anything, there is no limit. I only said 1 million because we've got to 400,000. I mean, come on, another 600,000 with Angelica going, she'll hit that target in a couple of days. So, but it's also good stats, right? So, for the team, for the devs and all that, they've got data. They can show anyone who's interested in building on the network. Look, we've been running testnet. We've had X amount of transactions. We're going to get more. So, continuing TELpets and everyone in the community around the world putting an effort in to have a go and do their part in testing the network. It's invaluable, the data. So that there is no limit on transactions. It doesn't matter. It is what it is. It's just, the point is that it's helping. That's what it's doing.
I couldn't say it better myself. I will just confirm that, yeah, there's no set limit, and the more that we have, the more complete you could argue the testing is. Randomness is notoriously difficult to simulate, so having humans and their natural behavior generating transactions, it is much more of a random testing environment for the network that really does simulate what we expect in mainnet. So thank you again to everyone who's helping to test. It really is very, very important and helpful.
Awesome. Another question for Grant. How long will testnet be as a rough estimate? And how long do human audits estimates take, just roughly?
Yes, so I'm not quite sure I fully understand how long testnet is, but so there's two ways to maybe think of that. One would be, this current version of testnet until we announce like our stable release, essentially, is kind of where we're at. And for that, we're wrapping up these last deterministic changes that will affect execution moving forward. So, and some of that future growth too, right? So we were capped at 1,100 validators. Now we can support over 7,000. We have native support for ERC20 interface. We have cleaned up state execution changes, so the database is very, very production ready. It's slim. It's something that we feel confident moving forward with for years, not just rushing to mainnet. And so once we launch a stable version of testnet here and very soon, that is supposed to last forever. And the idea is that we have a testing environment that has no real world value, but it uses the exact same code. It uses the exact same tools. It's in the same exact data centers as mainnet. And so we have a parallel network. One we assign real world value, one we just acknowledge as test value. And that just gives us a sandbox and a safe environment to ensure that our updates and our future changes and enhancements and features, et cetera, are ready for mainnet when we apply real world value. But the idea is that they are parallel networks that are identical. They have different chain IDs so that to prevent replay attacks for different networks. But other than that, they're completely identical. And so we will have testnet running for as long as the project is alive.
Yeah, and also to add, it's also testnet running in parallel is also there for developers when they're building on the Telcoin network to test out what they're building first before they deploy it on mainnet. There's lots of reasons why to have it in parallel, ongoing. Ethereum has it. All blockchains have a testnet that runs in parallel with their mainnet.
Awesome. Let me see. This one is kind of a bridge from Grant back to Parker. Let me find it again. Sorry, bear with me here. Okay. Will this proposal, this is going back to Parker, the strategic advisor proposal, will this proposal speed up or slow down testnet launch?
Neither.
Sorry, mainnet launch. I apologize. Mainnet launch.
Neither. I'd view them as separate. One being sort of business and one being technical. There is a part of what we describe as mainnet being reaching a certain quorum of validators and having a mainnet, and then the governance of the network goes from the TAO to the platform and Treasury councils. So to the extent that that the advisor impacts validator that validator quorum threshold within the time period before governance, then it wouldn't change anything. But from the perspective of the technology, Grant.
That's correct. These are sort of different parallel agendas. One is very mainnet development and security and paramount and installation, et cetera, with our MNO partners. And this proposal introduced today is very much focused on the other side, which is just as important in business development, establishing partnerships, building a reputation, and having that consultation for GSMA from a real expert in the industry. So I think they reinforce each other and they go hand in hand, but they are not they do not compete with each other or block each other in any way.
Thank you. Grant, you can answer this too as the last network question I've got. Is there any way, oh, sorry. The part 2 to the first question, Grant, and then we can move on to Parker. It was how long approximately do human audits take?
Oh, yes. Thank you for reminding me. So the security researchers are experts in their field, and really the industry standard for assessing timelines and to kind of give a to the best of their ability a secure assessment. It really depends on the lines of code. And then the number of lines of code is what we call scoping. And so usually at the start of a security assessment, we have a scoping session with the researchers where we say, you know, this is the code that we want you to assess. And usually it's organized in a way of some functionality. So, you know, at the very highest level, you might have consensus code and execution code where, you know, the validators reach consensus, and then once consensus is reached, you execute and fill out the block data and actually update transaction accounts, transfers, etc. Now that if we scoped it like that, we would have tens of thousands of lines of code, and that would probably be, you know, months, quoted at months worth of timelines for the human assessment. So what the security scans let us do with the AI thing is, you know, we can really identify and cover those large areas and large domains of code where there's really not a limit of how much code we can scan. But when we get to the human research side, that's where we need to be careful, and we're working with our security expert partners to identify what makes the most sense, right? And so from a security perspective, you have internal communication between the nodes and the protocol. So a validator talking to another validator, let's say to vote or to you know, approve that they agree that this transaction is valid. Something like that, you know, is between two MNOs, two validators that have a consensus NFT that are well known. Telcoin network is not an anonymous validator network, which also, you know, is reduces the exposure and risk of MEV attacks. But really, the security, it really just depends on what's in scope. For the actual for these human interventions and assessments, we're looking at somewhere in between 5 to 15 weeks if total, and a lot of that can be completed in parallel. So while researchers are looking at one part of the code base, we can have researchers looking at another part of the code base. The challenge there just becomes with the feedback and addressing those patches in a timely manner. So that is something that we've identified 5 key areas in the protocol that we think are high priorities. These are public-facing entry points to the network. These are also critical for like password management and BLS key management. We also have identified an area for the execution area where once transactions are final and they're organized by consensus, they go to be played through the EVM, right? And so a bug there would be considered critical. We could actually lose user funds. And so that is deemed worthy of having an additional human full-blown security assessment. Now, depending on what we put full in scope there, you know, we could be looking at up to 3 weeks for just the execution layer. But I think realistically, and the last time that we have quotes, we're looking at about 8 weeks, I think, total of like all of the different 5 sections that we want to put in scope. Again, we have the opportunity to do that in parallel. So we could, if we're not going to do this, but we could have, you know, all 5 happen at the same day. One would end in 3 days. There's another one that's like looking at 10 days. So yeah, to be specific, and I will provide updates as these are ongoing. We're getting close to launching these. So the first security assessment that we are going to launch will be 10-day review for the BLS cryptography library that we've developed in Solidity that will be used to verify proof of possession when validators stake to the network. So when they stake, they join consensus and they have to provide a BLS signature. And this is a cryptographic library that verifies that the private key did in fact sign this stake for the validator. And that'll be our first assessment. It's going to be 10 days. And we have 4 more after that, at least. Yeah. I will keep you up to date though on that as we continue to refine and just narrow the scope, because a lot of that too is also budget and time are both high on our considerations. So, but ultimately it has to be secure first, and that's our biggest priority.
Thank you, Grant. Ty has his hand up. Please, Ty.
Yeah, hi. It's just want to touch on maybe some of the intangible benefits of the advisor engagement, because the question about the tie-in to launch a mainnet just reminded me of the fact that if we had high value large MNOs at launch, that's a huge kind of mark of credibility to the launch of a new network and the whole genesis of the concept of the project. And so the advisor could help bring that level of credibility to the actual launch of the mainnet by doing all the groundwork that's really needed to work with these high value MNOs that are notoriously slow in making decisions and willing to adopt a new technology because of the potential reputational damage to their brand. It just adds a lot of sense to, get the guy working at that level to achieve maybe some big names at launch, which would be a huge strategic advantage to us. So I think that's an important tie-in, which is an intangible, but it's still connected, So I'd just like to mention that because just thinking around the whole implementation of the engagement, it's really exciting as far as I'm concerned. That's all.
Do we have any more questions?
Yes, we're going to keep moving. There's a lot, so I can't guarantee. If we don't get to your question, please post it in the Discord or on the forum. We'd be happy to answer it. There are a lot, so which is a good problem to have. Well, let's keep going here. Parker, so I'm going to go back to the one we were asking earlier, and the genesis of the question was, from how I understand it, with the original vote to put the here, I'll just read it again. There's 5 billion Teller and Telcoin holdings for the bank. So talking about that original proposal for the bank, and they're basically asking if these TELIPs for these big expenditures are about community governance. And reading the last part, shouldn't quarterly updates be provided on such a critical move that directly impacts stakers and holders? I'm assuming referring to the first proposal that was passed with the bank.
So you're talking about like a quarterly accountability framework for Telcoin holdings as it relates to the bank, and also shared services agreement for the development.
That seems to be.
Is that?
Yeah, it seems to be they're at again in DD 256. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you're asking since this first proposal was done, and we're voting on all these other big proposals, is there a reason there's not a publicly viewable quarterly review is the question, I believe.
Yeah, so for the first thing is that certainly open to creating that type of framework with the council, so that we can have that in place and have a very specific format for it. The first thing I'd say is that, of course, we on shared service agreement for the network development do these meetings every 2 weeks, and there's just a constant interaction with Grant and the rest of the development team surrounding that, as well as business updates from us on these meetings and the like. But as far as the the financing, banking, the Internet of Money proposal, I think that we can definitely create an accountability framework for that. I also think that just given the timing of the bank, it makes more sense after the full-blown production is live, with V5 and everything. And then we can, report on that. Right now, it's a lot of just getting that in play, making it happen. And so don't want to over encumber it, but I completely understand the sentiment, and think we should work towards something that makes sense. I I don't know that there's necessarily an accountability framework that we should install for the first part with the shared services, but yeah, the other one seems like a good idea. And I think maybe after this, like next quarter or the following, I have to talk internally and then with everyone, but I don't see why we shouldn't do that.
Thank you, Parker. And a follow up for just the proposal specifically, and this is in regards to storms specifically. And with this proposal, can we hear from Parker on what he sees from Storm to make him feel confident in Storm being the proper marketing partner?
Yeah, I mean, so the first thing I'll say is that the proposal is not for marketing. It's for community and ecosystem development and management. So interacting with everyone in the TELfam and socials and all those things on the first part of the engagement. And the second one is on sort of sales perspective, which in a lot of ways is incorporated as a program management role with David with the advisor, and then the the other stuff is related to sort of sales. So we pivoted from the original proposal of marketing to a sales and community development scope. So we reduced that third line item, which really was the primary before. And that was based on outcomes, community feedback. What gives me the credibility of Storm is that the first time I met him, I believe it was like 2021 MWC, maybe it was 2022, something like that. And so they're a blockchain native company from Switzerland that was there with the like ambassador to Spain from Switzerland. And from the outset, you all of a sudden have this firm that is not only Web3, but they're very much so interconnected with governments, with telecoms, our primary target audience. I'm like, you wouldn't see anyone else like that at the MWC style, GSMA events. And of course, it's been instrumental in bringing in this individual, but I would say just generally from a sales and business development perspective, having worked with Shiraz and done intros to various service providers, potential partners already, sort of pivoting from that marketing to sales makes a ton of sense because I have a pretty strong faith in his ability to do sales. So I know that was relatively roundabout, but I think the core thing here is that we're replacing marketing with sales, and that I think Shiraz is really good at that.
Thanks, Parker. Yeah, that definitely helps clarify. One other question, this will be the last one, Parker, on yours proposal is the request to keep the name quiet the consultant's request or Telcoin's? I wholeheartedly think we need to start becoming more vocal and using this move to showcase the work that's being done.
So it was mutual, really. I mean, basically, all the council members have been briefed on this in full with his identity and credentials, and in line with the NDA. That's something that we can do and get these proposals through, and seems to be pretty unanimous on this. From that perspective, and there's a reason for having that. At month 4, the advisor wasn't necessarily opposed to having his name be public. But we think that it would be a lot more effective from within the industry as a starting point, have him, work towards building Telcoin related content and credibility and conversations from within the GSMA, but not necessarily as, open vocal at the outset. Basically want to sort of get these, it builds a credibility from within the GSMA to be stealth at the outset is my view. And then also gives the optionality of if it doesn't work well for both parties, that we have this, short-term situation. So it's really just like the first few months of the engagement here. And yeah, I don't know if anyone else has anything to add. We've talked about this group a lot. So yeah, I'd be curious if anyone else has thoughts.
No, I think Yeah, that was the last question, but if anybody in the council, please.
No, I'll just say that it makes total sense, you know, because for the first few months, going in there and getting you know, rolling your sleeves up and going through all these, meeting all these people, it's better not to sort of come in there as an advisory role for Telcoin. You know, it might come across too salesy, for example. So going in and just doing what the advisor can do for the first few months before announcing the role makes a lot of sense. You know, I think, and I think it will work out much better for what he needs to do and who he needs to speak to, etc. And there's lots to do. There's lots to do. There's not just about the network, it's about developing on the network, and you know, there's so many things that need to be done. So yeah, I think going in stealth for the first few months, getting everything ready, getting those connections, and then after month 3, you know, it becomes public, and then loads of stuff comes out, and we go from there.
Yeah, I posted just my commentary on this that I also share in the forum within the chat here, but it's basically echoing you there. I think there's part of it that I think is important is a neutral driven exchange from the outset drives credibility with these relationships when it's not immediately framed through an advisory role. And then, yeah, there's that protection level too, if it's working or not. So yeah, what are there any other questions, Derek?
Nope, that's there's another question about Holdings or Parker giving any insight on V5, but again, I can answer that since Parker's been answering a lot. And Parker, if you want to extrapolate, you can, but these council calls are not focused on and not at liberty to talk about developers' products. So this is, Parker, you want to extrapolate, you're welcome to, but.
No, I think you did it perfectly there. But yeah, I think before closing, I just would want to, you know, I think that Ryan's question about the community engagement part of the proposal with Storm is a good one that we need to seriously consider. And I just want to say my thoughts are that it seems like a good medium-term solution, but in the short term that we should probably move forward with this, given that it's not incredibly high cost, especially versus the benefits of switching, even though that would be pretty low with Holdings, for instance, as the maybe we figure out if it's working really well over the next few months, in parallel build out an alternative approach and then go with that. And if anyone has any thoughts or dissenting opinions towards that approach, maybe we should iron that out now so that we can move forward.
Yeah, I will selfishly speak up and say I would be in support of coming up with a medium term approach, but in the short term, yeah, I think it's paramount. It's needed from a communication standpoint, and I think valuable. Just my opinion. Now, again, we do have to balance that, as Ryan said, with the objectives in the budget and the other things going on. There's many factors I think that we need to look at from scaling that out and ramping. Just my opinion. So,
do we have any more questions?
there's what we're going to end it here is we're already 30 minutes over, but we've already got most of them answered. There's another question about Storm. Nick, I do see that. Please post that in the forums and we can get it answered for you. There's another one from, I believe this is probably Thad, but I'll Thad, that was answered about the payments, milestone payments. And there is a addendum on the forums. If you go take a look, Parker put some stuff up there that answers your question. So I'll end it with 2. One, not a question, but comments. Lots of comments in the chat, commenting about wanting to give Nick props. TELpets looks amazing. It's very clever and a great way for the community to stress test the network. Good work. I had other people say that it's fun and takes kind of the focus off of a boring market. It's surprisingly addictive, so all these little things. I think when Nick kind of told me about it, and just speaking candidly, we both kind of had a chuckle because it was like, it's a silly thing, right? And it's a pets, but it's fun, right? So lots of things there. And then I'll end it with this, and Grant, if you wouldn't mind sharing, or Nick can too. Somebody was asking if they wanted to build something on testnet, how would they go about doing that?
Well, testnet is publicly available. We have documentation that we're adding to all the time at docs.telcoin.network. I'll add that in the chat here. But that's a great place to start. Go to the chain list, find an RPC, and basically any EVM tool, we're fully compatible. So there's a lot of different educational opportunities. If you're looking for some examples to follow along, building smart contracts, deploying NFTs, launching all sorts of things, anything EVM compatible, the Telcoin network can support that. And so that would be the place to start. If you are in the need of Tel, we are launching the faucet very soon. That's something that we just took the effort to decentralize. And in that process, we have some infrastructure needs that are being worked on outside the core protocol team. And we're working very closely with them to get that up as soon as possible. So once that's on, it'll be permissionless to get Tel. But if you need Tel in the meantime, then TELpets has a faucet available through that. You can connect your wall and get Tel there. And then, we will have a public faucet very soon. And that's really all you need is a little bit of Tel to get started to pay gas fees. And then you can deploy as much as you want. The fees are very low. So you should be able to do just about anything you want to do on that's EVM compatible on Telcoin network with just a little bit of Tel. So.
Yeah, and I'll just add that once this unified web presence comes out, we've got a dedicated, landing page for developers. So you'll be able to have a lot of information through there and get through that. And we've also, I don't know if we want to give out the email or not, Grant. There's an email if you are a serious developer and you kind of want to have some more interaction with some of us. You can email devs@telcoin.org. A couple of us get those emails, so I'm more than happy to jump on calls or provide information as we build out the documentation and as the landing page, etc., comes up with the new unified website. You can reach out and any questions.
That's a great point. Yeah, if you are looking to really build and you need some support and you need, please reach out, devs@telcoin.org. Absolutely, we'll be happy to support.
All right. That is the last of the questions, Angelica.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining our 35th council meeting. Next meetings are April 23rd, May 7th, and May 21st. 2026 is the year of Telcoin. Mainnet is coming. MNO validators are setting up. The Telecom blockchain standard is becoming reality. See you in 2 weeks. 2026, the year of Telcoin, the internet of money. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.